Friday morning, can't control it. Fired up and counting every minute. Hands are shaking, eyes are burning. The time has come, yeah, this is not a warning. The week was just so long, we had to let it go. Our problems disappeared, we're not tied up anymore. The weekend is here. Sunday calls, we are sick and tired. Up and down, can you feel it?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Kurt Johansson Show. It's Kurt. Today, got a special and unique guest. He's been the Arabian Champion for allegedly over 20 years, and he's the only man to work on 3 continents in the same day. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Sunset Skip.
Welcome, Kurt. Thank you for having me on, brother. Normally, I'm going coast to coast like butter on toast, but recently I've had to be staying home like a garden gnome. But it's great to see. It's great to have a bit of variety to the norm.
Definitely, and you're definitely a character of such extravagance, and the things that all the tales that you have over Sunset Skip and what you've achieved, and now you're on the UK soil. So, how's things for you during the pandemic?
During the pandemic, well, brother, everything's closed, everything's quiet, everything's closed. Like I said, I'm normally going coast to coast. I'm going here, there, everywhere. And I must correct you. You said it was 3 continents in a day. I managed 7 while simultaneously wrestling in Australia and Antarctica. Took a polar bear on, suplexed him off the cage, and then on the way through, I took on the greatest Australian wrestler of all time, Ubw Jack, all on the same day.
How do you do such a feat?
Time zones. Be very smart with your time zones and get friendly with check-in staff at airlines. That's kind of Skip's top tip for worldwide travel.
So, when you're achieving such a thing, when the pandemic, and I know the government have had to create this pandemic just to stop you from going continent to continent all the time, but when it's gone all said and done, where are you going first?
Well, Big Skip, it all depends where they'll have me. You know, I'd love to go anywhere warm. You know, Big Skip misses those Arabian territories that I was in for so long. And but yeah, I think once the pandemic's over, I think staying on UK soil is probably top of Skip's agenda. And I don't know, it goes from kind of cementing my place where I am currently in promotions such as Ubw and Sacrifice, or in an ideal world, I do want to stretch out and hit up absolutely anywhere that I can go. You know, Big Skip can take on anyone. I've got the fiercest pile driver in the game. I've got the best crossbody since Ricky Morton. In fact, I taught Ricky Morton how to do it. So it all depends who'll have me.
Tell us the story around the Arabian Championship then. Over 20 years, allegedly. Like, how long have you had such a title?
Well, speaking of the Arabian Championship, if I just lean off screen for just a minute, this beautiful piece of platinum, silver, and the finest Emirati onyx. Take a good look. How did I get it? Well, it was in a fierce one-man Kumite. Sorry, not one man. It was a one-man, last man standing Kumite tournament, deep in the hills of Ras Al Khaimah in the United Arab Emirates, and it took on fighters from all over the globe. There was the Sheik, the original Sheik. We had, as the aforementioned, Ubw Jack, and plenty of other fighters who sadly their names are going to be left in the annals of time. And then when it was all said and done, after that Kumite, after days and days of non-stop agonizing fighting, Big Skip managed to crawl his way out holding that prestigious championship. And as you said, 20 years later, no chance of giving it up just yet, despite having 76 reigns. Figure that one out yourself.
Like, are you wanting to take this title across the UK, defend it against what the UK's got to offer?
Absolutely. You know, I consider myself a hoss among hosses, Kurt. So it's an open challenge for absolutely anyone who wants it. You know, you're a big boy, you hit hard. This is the championship for you. It's open to anyone, like I said, who's a big boy who hits hard, because that's Skip's forte. You want to hit me, I'm going to hit you harder. You want to hit me harder, I'm going to hit you even harder. And we could go on and on and on. But until the last one of us is standing, that'll be the winner. So I'll put my Arabian Championship up for absolutely anybody who wants to take me on. So let's do it, big boys. And ladies, why not? Let's open up to anybody. Doesn't matter what gender you are. You can be anyone at all, because some of the hardest hitters out there are the girls. So let's get it on. Absolutely anybody. I'll open it up. Anybody who's walking can take me on for the Arabian Championship.
When you've had a title for such a long time. It must be part of yourself, part of your identity. What happens if show number one, after the pandemic, somebody takes that title off you?
If someone takes off show number one, show number two, Big Skip's taking it right back. And I've got an immediate rematch clause because after 76 range, yeah, it was 76 range, I have got that right to kind of call an immediate rematch for the Pan-Arabian Championship. So it may be out of my reach temporarily, but like a homing pigeon, it's always going to come back to me. It's always just going to nestle nicely in my hand, and I'm going to just stroke it very nicely as it coos as I put it to sleep, and then the next day it'll be ready to fly away if ever it needs to again.
What if, though? What if they can manipulate time, use these time zones the way you have, and start dashing across all these different continents? Are we going to have Sunset Skip chases the Pan-Arabian Championship?
Absolutely. Yep, I'm never going to let it out of my sights. My passports, multiple, don't tell anyone. But I've got plenty of passports. I can go anywhere in the world right now. I'm sure I could probably call in a few favors on some private airlines. And I think anywhere in the world, doesn't matter if it's a block of ice in the North Antarctic or the harshest deserts, I'm going to be chasing the Pan-Arabian Championship.
So you mentioned you hit hard. And if you have somebody that hits you hard, you'll hit them harder. And if they hit you harder, you're going to hit them even harder. So
Absolutely.
For those listening and for those promotions that might be listening, what else could they expect if they have the Pan-Arabian champion Sunset Skip on their show?
Color, volume, excitement, passion, all things that Big Skip absolutely embodies. And tassels, lots and lots of tassels. Always wear tassels. You can't see them on screen right now because I'm just wearing the leopard print jacket, but on the bottom half of the body is the most wonderful set of tassel trousers you'll ever see. So tassels are a guarantee.
So it's now 2021. Rumor has it that you kind of stuck in the 1980s. Like, how do you adapt to such thing? Like, do you wake up thinking it's the 1980s, go out and then the world's in color? Like, how is that for you?
As an analog man living in the digital world, I must be honest, there are times where it is a little bit tough with everybody scrolling along on their Facebooks and their Twitters and their Instahams. But Big Skip's always ready to learn. So I'm getting there with the times. I've got me a Twitter machine. I've got me one of them iPhones. But as I said, I'm an analog man in the digital world. That means that things work well. If something didn't work properly in an analog world, sometimes you just slap it and it works a little harder. So these digital things, they're not built to last. Big Skip, he's built to last, man.
So I know you went back all those years, like you've been going across for years, but you made your debut, your pro debut, shall we say, in 2003. So it seems like the record books, the history wants to wipe off Sunset Skip because you've been around for a couple of decades. So they think that's not fair for everybody else. So you have your clean slate in 2003. How was that for you? Like, who was it that was showing you the ropes again, allowing you to adjust to this new century?
Well, getting back to ironically, it was a lot of old-fashioned guys, old-school guys. It was Tony Scarlo from the World of Sport era was one of my main trainers. And Tony, unbelievably tough, unbelievably skilled. He had a huge part in training me for my early days, as did another gentleman from the World of Sport era, Frank Reimer. He was slightly less well-known than Tony, but still an incredibly skilled wrestler. Then not long after that, at the same place I was training, there was some guy from the then FWA who came along, Ash, Curb, and Cruz, who became good friends and trained me as well. And then after that, I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with Johnny Kidd, one of the greatest World of Sport wrestlers ever. So with that huge base of various talents from different eras, adding to Skip's pre-experience from, should we say, another vessel, this current vessel of Sunset, I can't even pronounce my own name, I'm that excited. This current vessel of Sunset Skip is able to get a lot of information from a wide range of trainers.
So am I right in thinking it's this Sunset Skip that's got that vast experience in mixed martial arts?
That would be the one who was kind of more in Finland. You know, he fought many polar bears in Finland, but he has passed on some of that information to the current Sunset Skip. So this Sunset Skip's done a bit here, a bit of jiu-jitsu, a bit of sambo. But I'm all about the pro style, baby. Throw in some bionic elbows and pile drivers and send them home happy.
Brilliant. So when you was training with Scalo and Reimer, was you having a look at like any other like seminars and things like that?
Well, over the years, you've got to keep things current. So, I mean, since 2003 to present, I have been to quite a few seminars. When you hear it, you'll hear it's quite a wide range. So, I've seminars with Johnny Saint back in, I think, the mid 2000s when he came out with his first retirement. Lots of time with Johnny Kidd, quite a few seminars with him. Raven seminars, I did one or two of those back in the day. Recently, Speedball Mike Bailey. I did one with Justin Gabriel in Dubai a few years back as well. So, you've got to keep things current. Like I say, I'm an analog man in the digital world, but the world moves on. You've got to have these things where you got to move with the times. You got to listen to those who are current, listen to those who have gone on to bigger and better things, because that's how you'll move on to these bigger and better things yourself.
It must have been so intimidating for them to have somebody such as yourself that's been around for decades to be observing them, to want to learn to them. Do you think that's your charitable donation to be like, you can now say you've trained the legendary Sunset Skip?
Quite possibly, but you know what? There's a time when you put your ego on the shelf, you put up, you shut up, you close your mouth, you open your eyes, you open your ears, and you just get on with it. Because, it's not always about Skip. When the Pan Arabian Championship's on the line, it is all about Skip. But when I'm just in there listening to somebody showing me something cool, all eyes and all ears.
So what was the differences in what you've learned from Scalo and Rama then?
That was like the classical world of sport wrestling. Lots of the it was the cliche 1, 2 counts, but proper wrestling, proper holds. Really kind of working for a hold, taking someone down to the mat and looking to kind of win without letting go. That was like the main thing that I learned from there. It was the classic British style, which I'd like to think I'm a very versatile, well-versed performer because I've got such a wide range of not only my experiences from the different vessels Big Skip has inhabited, but also from what I've done, where I've been, and the things I've done. I've never understood some of these wrestlers who will say, I've been training for X amount of time, however long, and then they don't learn from anyone else. They don't carry on training. Like the best athletes in the world, you look at the best footballers, the best American footballers, sprinters, whatever, they're continually training. So to not carry on with your training seems kind of redundant. You'll only ever have that small amount of skill set. So why rest on your laurels when you'll never know everything? Things change in this game.
100%. So again, you mentioned like the likes of Johnny Saint, Scott Hall, Raven. Those three are so diverse. Like Raven, everybody talks about his psychology. Johnny Saint, you've got it's Johnny Saint. It speaks for himself.
Apology.
What was it that you'd been learning from those three more specifically?
From Johnny Saint, it was looking at like his style. As you said, they're so completely different. With Johnny Saint, it was him showing us some unique techniques, some unique skills from his era, and then looking to translate. Because around that time, that mid 2000 era, that was when a lot of the American indie guys were starting to watch a lot of the world of sport. It came back into kind of back in vogue, back in kind of prevalence. And to me, wrestling's all about context. So it's all very well and good doing a Johnny Saint spot, the Russ Abbott, the Lady in the Lake, these well-known sequences, but knowing how and when to apply them makes it perfect sense rather than just going, oh, look, I know how to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when it comes to Raven, as you said, he's just this textbook of psychology and nuances and almost subtleties to the game. And that was incredible. I've never come away from time with a wrestler, whether it's been on the road, in the ring, or a seminar, or whatever, with just, and I drove to and from the seminar with some friends at the time, and we didn't stop talking for the whole couple of hour car journey back, going, oh my God, how about this? Oh my God, how about that? Oh my God, this happened here. And oh wow, when he explained that, we could do this. It just opened up our minds to so many other things. And the Scott Hall seminar was incredible. It was in a quite strange time because I'd come back. I'd moved back to England, and I thought, I don't know if I'm going to be done with wrestling or not. And it was quite a nice kind of shot in the arm as I got a good compliment from Scott Hall. He liked some of the bits I did, and his was almost a masterclass in professional wrestling, especially as a big heavyweight. It was just, these are the things that you're looking for to be that next level performer. And it was, again, Raven was this textbook kind of encyclopedia of knowledge, while Scott Hall was this incredible masterclass for again, these nuances and things like that, and how to carry yourself. It was all, incredible seminars, but completely different. So this is why, for a young wrestler or an experienced wrestler, you've got to keep going to these things, because there's always going to be someone that knows more than you, or knows that, or has a different approach. I don't even think it's a case of knowing more. You can always learn something from someone else. It doesn't matter if they're somebody who's been going a couple of years or somebody who's been going a couple of decades. You'll always be able to pick something up from someone.
Yeah, definitely. So again, especially for this vessel of Sunset Skip and everything you've learned over the, say, past 17 years, have you managed to, whilst we're on the topic of training and stuff like that, have you managed to pass on any of that knowledge and coach?
Yeah, on and off, really, since about 2006. I worked alongside Ash, who's an excellent trainer. As I mentioned, he's one of mine at the LDN training school. I was one of the assistant coaches then. Then around 2011-ish, myself and Cruz, again, one of my early trainers, we opened up what's now grown into the UBW Square Run Academy, which is run by Hugo Bloom. So it's nice to see that chronology that moves on. But I've been fortunate enough, and it is my good fortune to kind of be involved with some of these people who've gone on to great things. And I wouldn't say that I'm their main trainer, but during that time, Jade, Bobby Tyler passed through. Briefly, Malik Amari, who's in NXT, worked with Zulu Prince over here as well. Yeah. The UBW roster, including some guys who should really have kind of got to great heights. Hugo Bloom, he's an incredible tag team wrestler alongside Brad Tannen. They came through the ranks there. A wrestler who's just coming back, a guy by the name of Sween, who was just instinctively one of the most aggressive performers I've ever seen, came through. So I've been really kind of fortunate enough to step into this trainer role, as well as passing on the knowledge I have. And even through training, you learn so much more about yourself as a performer and an athlete, because you think, okay, why am I doing this? How am I doing this? These are different ways that I could approach this. So it's a fantastic opportunity for everyone.
Definitely. And you mentioned at the beginning of this about the Pan-Arabian Championship, you take all comers, male or female, and the females can hit just as hard. Am I right in thinking one of the people that came through and was on that list would have been Big Femme Vader herself, Aisha Raymond?
Absolutely right. Yes, Aisha, she was in the LDN training school back in, I want to say 2006, 2007. And again, I can take next to no credit for how much Aisha's achieved. Watching her in the Mae Young Classic a few years back, I texted her and said, "This is amazing," And I know a huge part of her training came from Justin Richards, who himself is an incredible trainer who's passed on knowledge to the likes of Ash. He came through the Hammerlock School the same time as Doug Williams. But with someone like Aisha, you just think, this is amazing. What you've achieved is amazing. And she's been to the pinnacle of her game, and she's still just started. But again, as you alluded to, she was as tough as nails. I remember in training once, we were demonstrating belly to back suplexes, and a few of them were quite worried about suplexing Aisha. And as I said, she was tough as nails then, still is. And I gave her a belly to back suplex, and it was as high and as fast as I've ever given anyone. And she sold it beautifully. And it was just the perfect example of, like, don't be afraid to wrestle whoever you're wrestling. Don't. And that's one positive about kind of where intergender wrestling's changed. It's now just not a matter of guy versus girl. It's athlete versus athlete, which needs to be the context in what it's presented.
And it's great that somebody like yourself has been through all these different generations of wrestling, has that mindset of let it be just athlete versus athlete, because that hasn't always been the case. And when Sunset Skip first started in like the 80s, or however young, or from all these different vessels, would have seen a lot of different.
Sherry, Martel, and Moolah then, and if you were to disrespect Sherry or Moolah, they'd kick your ass. And the reason why the guys went in the ring with Sherry or Moolah is because they'd get their asses handed to them. So it was best if they stayed out of their business.
Definitely. And for those of you that are still wondering regarding Aisha Raymond, she's done some great stuff in Japan after WWE, and now she's I believe she's the head trainer at the Fierce Female Dojo in Scotland. And she's my co-host for Fierce Females Focus on their video on demand service. So make sure you do check out Aisha Raymond if you're based in Scotland and you want to be taught by one of the hard hitting, like tough as nails women. Well, I won't even say women wrestlers, like wrestlers in the UK.
Just a legit hard hitting performer.
Definitely. So make sure you do go check that out. But going back to yourself then, like from your early days, I know you ended up going to Dubai. But before that, like what was you doing on the UK scene before you thought, actually, I'm gonna go out to Dubai?
Uh, I was mainly kind of in my home of UBW from so early days, kind of 2003, 2011. It would be absolutely anywhere and everywhere, and the scene was a lot smaller then. And on top of kind of the day jobs, because you got to have the shoot jobs key to support your wrestling habit these days. But that would be kind of anywhere and everywhere. And I was like super busy. I remember talking to some friends not long ago, and I would probably on average like 3 to 4 shows per week. And this was, there'd be a midweek job, there'd be 2, maybe 3 at the weekends, and it was a completely different kettle of fish, even for a young wrestler without any quote unquote name value at the time. The Sunset Skip name hadn't carried over to the UK back then, and then from I think it was 2011. 2011 or so, it was kind of a promotion I was in, ended up kind of birthing what became UBW through the training school that myself and Cruz were running. And I was fortunate enough to be the first UBW champion from 2012 to, I think it was early 2014, late 2013. And that was my home and is Big Skip's home today.
Wow. Like, how was that feeling to be their main champion so young in your career?
It was a real shot in the arm. It was somewhere where a lot of the people came through the training school. It was somewhere I took a lot of pride in that event. The UBW shows were it was an extension of myself going, okay, these are guys that I'm super proud of. And then now with Ash kind of taking the mantle alongside Hugo Bloom in recent years, it's still somewhere where I'm very, very proud, and I see things on UBW shows and I'm like, this is my home. I want things to be as good as possible rather than just kind of, this is just done for the sake of it. It's somebody's coming in and taking something that was mine. I was the first champion there, and we all know about championships in wrestling. It's a heavy bit of luggage to carry around, but that heavy bit of luggage was something I was incredibly proud to be the first person to carry around.
Yeah, definitely. And I know more recently, upon your return to the UK, you'd been the tag team champion as well. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. It was in a gauntlet match, and my tag partner and I, we had the unique distinction of never being able to carry the championships away from the ring, as we were goaded into a rematch instantly, which we lost. However, on that same night, the person that cost us those matches, Sidney Von England, I defeated him for his UBW Infinity Championship. So, what goes around comes around. It's, lose a $5, gain a $10.
Definitely, and winning those titles, obviously, it's all about that winner's purse. From all these years you've been on the road, going through all these different continents, it's see how much money you can get on the way.
Absolutely, making towns, and you got to make sure that you got enough money for town to town to town, and to have some fun. Big Skip's all about having fun, and if you lose, you're not going to be in the mood to have some fun. You win, you're going to hit the town, and you're going to paint it red.
Definitely. So, what prompted you going to Dubai then, and what was that experience like wrestling in Dubai?
Needed a change of scenery. It's I like.
It's
I like
change of
weather.
scenery, and it's flying to Dubai.
Absolutely, it's big change of scenery. There was quite a few things where I thought, what, it's time for a new challenge. It's time to go to warmer climes, and off I went. So made my way out to Dubai. It was the shoot job that mainly took me out there, and it was incredible experiences out there. I was really, really fortunate enough to do some incredible things, like some of the venues we wrestled in. We wrestled in the World Trade Center, where they have an annual Dubai Sports World, it's called. And in that same venue a few weeks before, I had seen 30 Seconds to Mars perform there. We performed at Zero Gravity, which is right at the base of Skydive Dubai. The day before, Justin Bieber was there. The day after we were there, Justin Bieber was there again on unannounced visit. And about 2-3 weeks beforehand, Tiesto was there. So these huge names were performing in the same venues that this wrestling company was in Dubai. This fledgling wrestling company was looking to kind of make some traction in.
What was the scene itself like then, like in terms of the audience? And because obviously, if you're getting to perform in such venues, it must have been doing well.
There were some interesting venues. A lot of it because it was so new out there. Like where pro wrestling is so ingrained in the UK and USA and Germany and Japan, out in the UAE, it's such a brand new concept that people were like, what is this? So you needed to kind of build the audience. So on top of the venues like the World Trade Center and Zero Gravity, we did an awful lot of things like conventions. So we did one convention which was in a mall right in the middle of nowhere, and on the same day, Brianna Hildebrand from the Deadpool movies was there, which was quite surreal, walking past her on the way into the ring, and she's just looking at these guys clad in spandex, just completely confused about what's happening. And some of the audiences we had were great, and at Dubai Sports World, we picked up a bit of a following. Again, like no one knew what wrestling was out there so much. So we're having these people go, what's all that noise out there? What's all that noise and color and stuff going on over there? So over I think it was about a 4-month period. So I was there for like the first part of it, and then I went away for a few weeks, and I came back for the end. And we'd grown from being like a few people milling around the ring to 50, 60 people milling around the ring to a couple of hundred people actually turning up, knowing, okay, at 9 p.m. the wrestling's on. Let's turn up and watch it. And we did that for a couple of years, and then we had like the show at Zero Gravity, which again was kind of a bit of a novelty, plonked in on the beach in this world famous beach bar under the Dubai skyline. I've got a great photo on my private Facebook account of me stood on the top rope and arms in the air, and behind me you just see all of these skyscrapers on a beautiful clear sunny day. And I just remember thinking to myself, this isn't a leisure centre in Bedfordshire. This is incredible.
Sounds amazing, like the experience itself. And I know you was part of the WWE tryout as well out there, wasn't you?
They had a few. So the big one that was in the Dubai Opera House, I was at the one where essentially they were looking to select people first off the bat for that. And I remember the guy who ran Dubai Pro Wrestling at the time was a guy named Caleb Hall, who studied under Rip Rogers. And we were speaking a few days before. It's like, you got to come along, man. You got to come along. And I was like, well, think of it this way. They're in the Middle East. They're not going to want a bald white guy when they're in the Middle East. It's a movie casting at the end of the day, WWE coming out. So I went along. It sounds like I kind of went begrudgingly. I was really excited to go along. And we had Canyon Seaman and another guy from Talent Relations who was based in the Middle East. They came, they watched what we did, and the guy that I worked against actually went through to the next round of tryouts. So I was super proud to do that because I knew he was very, very new to wrestling. So kind of putting 2 and 2 together. Would they assign me? Probably not, because if they want a bald white guy, there's thousands in the States that they don't need a visa for. This was before NXT UK. So, but to kind of help somebody else, give them a helping foot out. Because at the time I was thinking, I'm probably winding down again with wrestling. This is a common theme. I often kind of think, I'm winding down. I should do this, that, and the other. And I've thought that about 74 times in the last 75 years. But yeah, it was great to kind of give this guy a helping hand. And, I got a kind of nice bit of advice, nice bit of feedback, nice compliment from the guy for hiring and firing in WWE, which I thought, okay, this is quite cool. I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you think to the scene out there now? I know you're no longer part of it, but we've just seen the announcement of like NXT India and with the wrestling in Dubai. We've seen the wrestling scene in Southeast Asia keep growing. So, like, what's your thought process on that wrestling scene around those regions growing and growing until WWE doing their own shows?
It is great. Like India and the Middle East, I know is one of the biggest target areas for the WWE because it's an untapped market, in the Middle East especially, potentially wealthy market. I know there's the kind of controversial Saudi shows, and then the huge show they did in Abu Dhabi where Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss were the first women to wrestle out there. So they're looking to really kind of make a hub out there, and with NXT India, that I think is going to be that hub. There's also there's 2 new promotions I know that exist in Dubai. There's Wrestling ME, which has kind of grown from what was Dubai Pro Wrestling. That kind of went by the wayside a couple of years back. And I believe there's a new one that I've seen. I want to say it's NGU or NGR or something like that. So it's there's 2 promotions in Dubai which are now kind of looking to do that. And again, 5-6 years ago, there wasn't any promotions. There was just the odd WWE house shows it passed through, or there was the events that are run in Qatar. So that whole region is literally an untapped market for wrestling. So for WWE to have WWE India and have, that's their hub, it's the cliche is a license to print money, but it really, really is.
Yeah, definitely. So you come back to the UK then, like, talk about, like, was it a culture shock for you? Because, again, you've just been walking past celebrities, Bieber's just been performing the night before, and then what was your thoughts on the UK scene when you returned to it after leaving it for these years?
It had changed hugely. There was a massive amount of differences, like even in how match cards were structured. Multi-man matches are now the norm, and I hate multi-man matches with a passion, unless it's like I hate most things in wrestling unless it's got a purpose. But every match has got like a token 6-man tag or an 8-man scramble or this nonsense, that nonsense, and it's just like it's squeezing guys onto the card, and I fully get that because there are so many wrestlers, so many talented wrestlers. You've got to get them all on the card. But just seeing all of these, but coming back, seeing like the names that are kind of grown prevalent as well, and how well people have developed was incredible to see. So there was huge differences. It was like 2-3 years felt like it could have been 20 or 30 years. It felt like when Skip left Mid-South in the early 80s and then went all the way to Australia for a few years. There's the big territorial differences, and just a couple of years coming back to the UK was certainly one of those big differences.
I can imagine. I can only imagine. So, what companies have you been working? Obviously, UBW, but what other companies have you been working since being back to the UK?
So, since coming back, there's been UBW has been a mainstay. Sacrifice has been a mainstay as well. Handful of shows for good wrestling who are based outside of Milton Keynes, and their shows are so much fun. Like they were one of the first shows I came back and saw. So it was, during the summer when I was visiting, I went and saw. I think it might have been their first and second show, and I thought, if and when I'm coming back to the UK full time, this is where I want to be. It was just the right vibe for what I want to do. So the work that the guys at Good are putting out is absolutely fantastic. Sacrifices I've mentioned, it's probably one of the coolest locker rooms ever. I've never been in a locker room where it's so welcoming, so inviting, so many cool guys. UBW is always going to be home, and then I've done just wherever will have me, kind of odd shots here and there for anyone that's like, hey man, you want to wrestle, you want to defend that Pan-Arabian Championship? Absolutely, morning, noon, or night, bring it on.
Is there anybody in particular that you want to defend it against?
Oh, I mean, it's probably unlikely now as he's been signed, but Rampage Brown has always been top of my list. Someone I've admired so much because for me, he's been the best, not just heavyweight wrestler. He's been the best wrestler in Europe for over a decade.
100%. I always say that. I think I even had a few laugh reactions from some fans that only watch the certain internet companies because, to me, he is the best wrestler in Europe, in my opinion. I'd seen him live against the likes of Ishikawa from All Japan, Joe Doran whilst he was in All Japan. They came over to the UK, and seeing him in the same night, like wrestle those two, was just proved that he's an absolute animal.
There's just that air of believability with Rampage. He steps through the curtain, and it's just you get that feel of a fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's one of those few people that carry it. But in terms of others as well, Big T, previous guest on the show, he's somebody that he's 7 foot tall. He's absolutely terrifying. How could you not want to kind of have two heavyweights smashing the tar out of each other? So Big T is definitely somebody. RJ Singh's somebody that I've been good friends with years with RJ. So I'd love to defend the Pan-Arabian Championship against RJ. And then others, I'd love to have another match with Hustle Malone, Gene Money, two of the biggest characters, he and I on the circuit. We would have an absolute incredible match, just tearing things up, and just the bizarre surreality that would happen from Big Skip and the damn Dirty Dog standing across the ring would be amazing.
It definitely would, and hopefully with the pandemic we can get everybody vaccinated, we can keep everybody safe, and the wrestling shows can start up again, and we can start tallying up those Pan-Arabian Championship defenses over the years and just run with it.
I think it's on somewhere like 30,092. My maths was never particularly great, but I think somewhere around 30,000 defenses seems about right, seems about legit.
And I know Skip, obviously being from the 80s, you're just getting used to all these different social medias and technology and things like that. I had to help you plug it all in for this to make sure we can get it going. but hopefully you can keep practicing and try and work on these videos. And you should
100%.
do like the video diaries of the Pan Arabian Champion and just going around defending it in all these different territories.
Well, you say that there's been rumours that the Invisible Man has been talking some smack about Big Skip. So I'll have some words for the Invisible Man at some point, and he's been ducking me for a while on the private. So I might have to, like you said, on these social media channels, I'm getting a bit more au fait with that. So I think I might have to be calling out the Invisible Man at some point, just while socially distant. I don't know if he's he's transmittable. I think I'll wait till we're out of lockdown before I fully address him. But yeah, I think the Invisible Man is top of my list before I can get to everybody else post vaccination and the world coming back to normal.
He's quite an hard man to get hold of, though, isn't he? Like you can't see him anywhere.
He is. You can't see him. He's, he's despite not being there, he lacks transparency. He's quite a difficult character to pin down, but I think I could find him.
So I'll block the Invisible Man on all social media channels, so he won't be able to see this bit. So you're not going to give it away to himself. But how are you going to fight? How's Sunset Skip, who's achieved all these amazing things, fighting a polar bear? How are you going to fight an Invisible Man?
I figure if you can see it, you can fight it. So do you remember the movie Predator, where Jesse Ventura, I told him these lines, I told him what to do. If it what was it? If it bleeds, I'm going to make it bleed. Something along those lines. It's been a while. I've had a few shots to the head, had a few shots of whiskey as well. But I reckon if I can make the Invisible Man bleed, or if I can cover him in the good old marching powder, should we say, I'll be able to find the Invisible Man.
Well, that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to once, obviously, COVID. Like, he's invisible. We don't know if he's carrying anything. You've got to be safe.
I mean, he better be vaccinated. Like,
he might not even be wearing a mask.
I reckon the Invisible Man's a sort of trash who doesn't wear masks because, like, oh, that's not real. Shut up. You're an idiot. Wear a mask. Get vaccinated.
Or if he does, he's the one that still carries it under his nose.
Under the chin. Under the chin. Just one of those. I'm wearing it under my chin. Shut up. Get in the bin.
So, like, what are some of your favourite matches since you've been back on the scene then?
One of the first one that springs to mind was a match for the Pan Arabian Championship against CJ Carter, who, again, going back to people I'd love to wrestle against, I would wrestle CJ morning, noon, and night every day. He is, I think, pre-pandemic, he was the sort of guy who was bubbling over. And I mean, it's an interesting story how I met him. He was a young lad at a training event I was at once, and he injured himself. And I drove him in my car to the train station so that he could get home. And then about 15 years later, he says to me, "Hey man, do you remember me?" And I went, "I'm really sorry, brother, I don't." And he told me that story, and I was like, "Wow." Turns out I wasn't a douche when I was younger. So I kind of thought I was. So that was quite a nice thing. But yeah, CJ is so good. Like, he's the sort of guy who I just think he needs that one match with that right opponent to be seen by everyone, and everyone goes, "Okay, this is the guy." So CJ Carter and he had a match. Well, now it's probably a good 18 months, 2 years ago, and that was one of my favorites as well. Another match I was really, really happy with. Well, I'm happy with all of them, but I took on Charles Crowley, another rising star in the Brit Rest scene, and he and it was his first defense in the Ubw Championship. So, he felt he had a lot to prove. I felt I had a lot to prove, and I think we proved absolutely everything right in that match with, well, absolutely knocked it out of the park. It was both of us thinking on our feet, lots of hard-hitting action. He kicked out my pile driver, the first man since Bobby Eaton to kick out the pile driver. So, he's a tough son bitch.
Definitely. So, where can everybody find those matches? Are they on the internet or?
They are mainly, I'm getting a little more clued up. So they'll be on the Sunset Skip Facebook pages, Sunset Skip Instagram and Twitter. They're all at Find Sunset Skip. You can find Sunset Skip, get it. But yeah, I'll post those matches fairly. I try and pin them to the top of the pages, or I'll post them every couple of months so that you can spot them. And they're also, I think, on the Ubw channels as well on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh, fantastic. So I'll put all those different social medias in the description. And
thank you,
Skip,
brother, man.
It's been an absolute honor speaking to somebody as legendary as
yourself,
who's been...
The legend of Skip is second only to the legend of Kurt.
I will take that. I will have that in my intro, and I'm going to run with it.
Absolutely. You should have it above you, kind of, tattooed on your other arm, have it on a T-shirt.
The Legend
have
of
it on a
Kurt.
hat. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Everybody, make sure you do go follow Sunset Skip to see, finding Sunset, see where he's going to be, see which continents he's going to go to next when we're allowed to fly anywhere, and he's had his COVID jab and he's got his little COVID card to say that he's immune. So, everybody, make sure you do follow, hit like, hit subscribe. The legendary Sunset Skip.
Thank you, brothers. You're welcome for the house as soon as we can, coast to coast like butter on toast. Oh, yeah.
Friday morning.